How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. We had a few technical issues, but we got there in the end.
No worries, no worries.
Oh, it's so good to see you. I'm really excited because we get to do our first live together, and which is really exciting. Which is essentially like a book club, but like across the
Amazing.
across the internet, across many. I think you're in Europe, aren't you? In
Yes,
Luxembourg.
I'm in Luxembourg. That's true.
Awesome. So Simone, do you want to say a little bit about like yourself in terms of your where you're from, what Idealist at Heart is? That'd be great.
Okay, so I'm Simone. I'm from Luxembourg, which is a very, very tiny country. Lots of people may not have heard about. Um, I started Ideals at Heart about a year ago because, well, I've always been reading a lot, as you can see from my library behind me. And I always talk about the books that I've read. And I've basically always tell anybody about what I'm reading right now, whether or not they're interested. So that's just at the same time, somehow I felt that a lot of things were going on around myself in society that I may or may not have agreed with. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
think my connection went out. And so the two somehow came together, and then it was a friend who actually joined us. He said, well, why don't you post about the books that you read? And I was like, why would I post about books that I read? I mean, you can just go and read about them too. And at the same time, somehow I have this very naive thought that maybe I can contribute to changing the world. And so I thought, go at it, just try. And I did. And so that's how I got started.
That's awesome because yeah, it's great, and I recommend everyone checking out Idealist at Heart, that profile as well as the website. So yeah, definitely. And actually, it was your idea, Simone, to come up with Kristin Neff's book, which I thought was
Yes.
beautiful. Fierce Compassion: How Women Can Harness Kindness to Speak Up, Claim Their Power, and Thrive. And I was just going to do a quick introduction in terms of what the book's about, and so we could just get started if you're happy. Um,
Go
so
ahead.
yeah, so Kristen. Oh, thanks, Simone. So Kristin Neff is like an associate professor of, I think, educational psychology at the University of Texas in Austin, and this book in particular is a follow-up from her bestseller, which is a Self-Compassion, of course. So I just wanted to talk about like what is it that women can do in this instance. And so for you, Simone, what do you think you learnt from this book?
Well, I might want to start and say that I'm not a self-compassionate person at all. I score very low on that scale. So when I read her first book, I was immediately hooked because it gave me something that I did not have before: how to speak to my inner critic and how to deal with that in my life. And so when I heard about her second book, I absolutely had to go and buy it. And she picks up actually from the self-compassion, only that now she has nuanced her idea. She's somehow completed it. So the original self-compassion, she now calls it tender self-compassion. And she's completed that with what she calls fierce self-compassion. And so the tender self-compassion is still very much about yourself. And when are you feeling critical towards yourself, or things go bad and you have negative emotions, and she just teaches you how to deal with that, to first be mindful about the emotion, then be aware that you're not the only or first person to have ever felt that emotion, so the common humanity of it all. And then the kindness part, so how to be kind to yourself. What is it that you need in this instance, in this instant, to feel better? Do you need comfort? Do you need to go out for a walk? Do you need to read? Do you need to change ideas? Do you need to call friends? And so that's the original concept of now tender self-compassion. But she also, and this is like where this book starts, and it's specifically aimed at people who identify as female. And because she says the game for women, it's just so different. And the rules are different. So tender self-compassion might not be enough just for you to deal with everything that's going on. Sometimes you have to go, you have to be strong, you have to stand up for yourself, you have to stand up for the people around you, you have to become active, maybe even an activist. And therefore you need to know how to take care of yourself and how to do that and how to be strong and not burn out and do all that stuff. And that's what fierce self-compassion is actually about.
Yeah, no, it's totally. Yeah, I'm totally in the same boat as you on that one with the lack of self-compassion. It was hard reading some of that, and I'm not sure if you felt the same. And I was wondering, did you try out any of the exercises? Because there's quite a few exercises, and do you find did any of them give you specific insight about yourself?
Yes, so I did both. I did the questionnaires and I did the mindfulness exercises. I found the questionnaires to be a bit more helpful to me because of two reasons. So specifically one questionnaire to give you a little background. If I'm talking too much, please tell me. But
No, God, definitely not.
Good. To give you a little background, so communal and agentic, those are the more stereotypical values or characteristics that we associate with gender. So agentic is more like the male version of gender, let's call it like that, where you are independent and you can make stuff happen and you make decisions easily and you don't give up and you get stuff done. And the agentic values are more the traditionally female values, where it's more about being emotional, being kind, being helpful, and that's sort of more like tender version. And so one of the questionnaires was about to test your score of how communal you are and how agentic you are. And I found out that I score high on both of these. So I score high both for the female values and the male values. And that explains so much about my life. So that gave me a lot of insight. The reason, because there are lots of meditation exercises in there as well. The reason those spoke to me a bit less is, well, one, they're written instructions, so I found it a bit hard to do meditation based on something that you basically have to learn by heart. I only recently, when I was preparing for this, found out that all the meditations are on her profile on Calm. I don't know if you know the app.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh,
they're in there as well. But I have let's call it semi-strong meditation practice. So I kind of thought that I was going for, and I know other techniques about noticing emotions in your body and how to deal with emotions in your body that I've been taught by other teachers. And so I felt like maybe those could give me also a good idea on how to do what I thought that she intended us to do with her meditations.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And in terms of before the book, would you say you were kind of less self-compassionate? And do you think you're more conscious of your behavior since reading the book?
You mean the first one or the second one? The first one, definitely. The second one, it was more like the fierce self-compassion part. Actually, that was more about, I think, self-compassion per se. It was more about dealing with situations in my life and also in my job, whereas sometimes you would have to have fierce self-compassion. And sometimes I was, okay, how do I do that or not feel okay with it? Because it was just like hurting the stereotype of not being the nice, gentle woman. And so reading that really helped me be okay with the fierce part of it and just say, yeah, this was not okay. There needs to be something done about this. So let's go and do something about this.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the idea of the angry side because I think, yeah, I'm not sure about you, but I never really equated self-compassion with sort of the anger, like being in touch with your own anger and seeing that as a positive. So I found that really actually useful because I think we feel really guilty when we feel angry,
Yeah,
especially as people who identify as women.
yeah.
So I found that really interesting. And so do you think like Dr. Neff's own views on anger is sort of an important cathartic function for self-compassion?
Not sure about cathartic. I really understood it more, but that might just be a nuance. As a messenger, like when you are angry, it's mostly because something else has happened. It's because somebody disrespected you or disrespected your boundaries or did something that was not okay. So if you get angry, that might just be a sign that something else is going on and that you have to tend to that something else. And in my experience, once you tend to that something else that's behind it, the anger just kind of, it doesn't go away, but it kind of just gives way to those original emotions, and you can deal with those better. But it's what you said. I'm 100% agree with that. Women or people who identify as women they're not allowed. We're not allowed to be angry because when we do, we just get called a lot of weird names.
Definitely. And I think, I'm not sure for you, but obviously it was some of the stuff that she was talking about was obviously very personal and, it was quite hard to read. And I was just wondering for you, like, I'm talking about the example of her own sort of realizing that she was kind of going through kind of, in a way, a ritualistic abuse, or she was watching ritualistic abuse through seeing this essentially like a cult leader behave a certain way. And I was just wondering, did it bring up emotions for you when you were reading it?
Um, her writing is very intense. I sometimes get that feeling when I read about mindfulness, because these authors use very simple words, but put together these concepts. They're so not what I'm used in my Western environment. It's very hard for me to wrap my head around, and that's what I think is very, very intense as well. And then yeah, she's really raw about her experiences. I mean, she really tells it like it is, and it's very, like for instance, like last Thursday was the start of the Orange Week, and there again you get to know so much about violence against women, and then you see it a bit everywhere. I mean, when you pay attention, you start to see it everywhere. And then seeing it also in the book, and her being so candid about that experience, and it's hard sometimes not to be too aware of everything that's going on around you. So yeah, intense definitely is the right word.
Cool. Yeah, I felt that the same way as well. I was just like, wow, this is a lot. And there were some parts of it which I found really difficult, which is I'm not sure if it's similar for you, but I know like culturally where I've grown up from, pleasing others has been quite a big thing. And so I was just wondering, like, do you think we can kind of balance pleasing others with being self-compassionate?
Um, yes and no. I mean, it's a complex, it's a difficult thing. She dedicates a whole chapter to it, specifically again with the stereotypes that are associated with the female gender. You're not allowed to go against that. They have that term stereotype threat. Every time you do something that's not like in line with those communal values, yes, somebody might get upset. So yeah, I believe it's in the short term, people might not be pleased with you saying, I need time for myself. I can't do this right now. I'm not up to this. But I think that if you do it on a regular basis, and if you really tend to your emotions and say, okay, now I need time for myself, I think that in the long term, you are so much better equipped to helping other people. And I know it for myself too, because when I'm not like in a good place and I try to help people, or people ask me to help them, I'm not very good at it. And I'm not very good at suggesting ideas or maybe even listening to them. And it's a whole other story when I feel good. And then I feel that I have something of myself to give. I have the energy to do it. And actually doing it gives me even more energy. So yeah, I do believe that if you tend to yourself in the short term, like, you know, this is what I need and I'm going to do this because I need it, then you are so much better equipped to help others and please others in the long term.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. I always use the analogy of the plane using the oxygen mask. They always tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before your child.
Yes.
And it's a very good reason for that. So I totally agree with you on that. And like, obviously the two books, her original book of compassion and self-compassion and this, differ in certain ways, but also are quite similar in certain ways. And I was just wondering, what's your opinion in terms of like, what would you give this out of 5 in comparison to, say, her previous book?
Well, as you know, I read a lot, and this has been one of 2 of my very favorite books of 2021 so far. So I would give it a very high ranking. Maybe not 5, because who knows? There's still a few months left, so I might find a book which is even better. But yeah, it's almost a 5, I'd say.
Wow. So
I do have
yeah.
Want to jump back to your previous question or your comment on the previous question. I think what makes it also difficult of saying no to people when they need you or they ask you to help them is because there are these repercussions maybe, and then you feel even worse because there's a reason you might not have been able to help them. And so when you go about like strengthening your boundaries and doing all the self-care and say, sorry, this is not possible for me right now, and then get the reaction that might not be so positive, and then you have to integrate that as well into your self-care routine, which makes it, I guess, double hard to deal with it. But it's just something I thought about.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. It is a lot to kind of think about. And so, yeah, God, that was awesome. And I'm like, do you have any kind of last thoughts on the book generally? I'm like, yeah, as you say, it sounds like you'd recommend it. So
yes, most definitely. Another thing I really liked about it is it really encapsulates what's going on right now in this period of time, because it's so inclusive of everything that's happening and of all the experiences. I mean, she even talks about climate change, she talks about systemic racism, and she kind of brings all of it together. And I really found it to be a very complete book about all the issues that are currently going on, in my opinion.
yeah, no, I totally agree, because it was like, unlike self-compassion, which was more kind of general, like this was very much like for the zeitgeist. She was talking about Me Too movement. She was talking about a lot of the stuff that was happening now and really affected people. So I thought it was really quite a really smart move on her part to kind of write about how this kind of is relevant for now, which was really great. So yeah, Simone, God, I'm so excited that we did this. This was awesome. I'm not sure, yeah, if you like, please do come back, because I've got so many books.
I would love to. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm not scared to death anymore. I survived, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, hello. You were like an absolute natural. Are you kidding?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Instagram Live is your forte, so you should definitely come back and do one of these
Thank
again,
you.
please. Yeah. Thanks so much, Simone. I'm gonna say bye to to everyone who joined today. Who's again, huge thanks to all of you who joined, and you know, we had really brief discussion on the book of Kristin Neff's book about fear, self-compassion. So again, we've got a good high rating for this book, so check it out. 4.5 stars out of 5. So give it a go. So yeah, huge thanks for Simone from Idealist at Heart joining me today, and hope to see you all next time.
Yes, we will. Looking forward to it. Bye.
See you. Bye.